just for the record, I wasn't horsing around and playing around with the snow dog. I had to warm it up, actually, so I could change the oil and have it ready to do some serious work when we come back this winter. No horsing around by me. All work. We just listened to the weather coming up, and a few spits of rain coming down right now. It's supposed to start raining this evening, and then still a 90% chance through tomorrow. So I got my big water guns out here ready to accumulate some wash water. With what they're talking about, it's not going to be a lot, but it won't take much to get me a really good supply. With that rain coming, I think I'm going to go for a walk. It's grouse hunting season opened yesterday, or today. It opened today. So I'm going to put my orange on as I head out toward the vehicle. Might be a few guys out there wandering around. I don't want to surprise them. So get it in before it rains. Coke's warm, but it's wet. Pretty hot. Hot and humid this afternoon with this walk, but I'm glad I got it in. Oh, not too far from the vehicle, and I looked in there and I took some of my road food for the trip up. It's some cupcakes. And tell you what, the story I always say that desserts go bad in 24 hours. These are old enough they might kill me. It's been 4 or 5 days now, but I'm going to take a chance. Sitting here in this rock, there's a big scar on it, and this post and that piece of metal I put in there to mark where it's at, because it sits right out in the middle of this meadow that we drive right by. Well, that post didn't used to be there, and well, there was a guy up here logging, and he was living in his van up at the logging site, and come the weekend, his buddies had taken off, and he must have got bored, and well, he was bored and he was really drunk, and he decided to go exploring down in this country to the south. Well, he didn't go walking. He started up this big 4-wheel drive log skidder and came cruising down through some of my lanes here that I drive on. And this is you can drive on it, but you got a little further south and then you're back into what has never been any much more than an ATV trail lately. And he come up, there's a beaver dam over there, and where the water kind of flows out of it at one spot, there was a wet spot. Well, being drunk, he wasn't thinking quite right. If he'd stayed in the lane, he probably could have got through okay, but he thought, no, I'll go around, I'll go over here through these trees and I'll just bust down and I'll avoid the wet hole. Well, if you know anything about a beaver dam, when all that water is backed up in a lake and the water just moves through the soil sideways, and so anything on the downside of that dam is nothing but a quicksand hole. Well, that's what he found out. He got in there and started pushing through some trees, and he stuck that 4-wheel drive log skidder. And you could see that he backed around and made a big mess trying to get out, but he was hung up and he wasn't going anywhere. So in his drunken state, he had to hike a few miles north back to his homestead stay. Well, then he got the great idea, well, I'll take a truck down there and I'll pull it out. Well, he started this truck up. It's a good-sized truck, and it's got this big apparatus on top. I think it's what they use to put the tree trunks through, and it shears the limbs off. Well, he didn't get very far at all, and he drove off into a wet marsh off the side of the trail. And he drove off so far that some friends of mine came out that evening, and they saw this vehicle there, but it was so far off they were able to drive right around it on the lane. Well, I think about that time the guy went back to his van and passed out. So the next morning, another hunter's cabin miles away, he went up to them and he knocked on their door and he says, you see my log skidder? He had no idea when he woke up where this skidder was. All he knew was that there's a truck gone, the skidder's gone, and I haven't the slightest idea what happened. So, well, it's not too hard to track down a log skidder track, so he must have finally figured out down here where it was. And he brought a third truck down, went down in there, and with chainsaws and enough cutting, he managed to get that log skidder out. I don't know how much of a day he put in doing that. By now it's Sunday, and he's got the boss coming back on Monday, so he's got to get this straightened out. Well, so he finally got it out, so he's got a truck down there and he's got a log skidder. So he starts bringing them back and he's leapfrogging them. Well, then the last misery of his bad weekend was he came up into here and he must have parked the log skidder. Then he came bombing up through here with that big truck, went around the log skidder in the grass, and clobbered this big boulder, just wham, put a big mark on top. I don't know what he did to that truck. Well, he finally got all of his toys back home up there, and I saw him, I think that evening or something. I was up hiking or something and talked to him, and he said, hey, he says, don't tell my boss what I did, okay? Well, I think his boss could figure out something had happened with all the markings around the forest, but I think the statute of limitations will run out on that one, so boy, what a weekend. When I went out an hour ago, I didn't notice this territorial marking on my trail. It's like something was following me and making its presence known. My lost camera is found. It just took me a week. Kind of had an idea of the trail I had this on. The last time I remember it was, nothing had used it late last winter. And I kind of remember moving it and putting it somewhere not too far from the cabin. Well, here I am about 200 yards north, and I've walked through here many times, but again, I kind of had a hunch, so I kept looking, and by golly, I spotted it. So our lost camera is found. Now I can just check it out here, see what it's captured over all this time. My, where does the time go? I've been here for a week and this is my first trip out to Hawks Pond. A little bit wet coming out because of the rain we got the other night, but I got by in my hiking boots and Hawks Pond looks as grand as I remember it.